Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I want to talk to you about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, aka Aquaman 2, which I've just got back from seeing at an advanced screening. So I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of the plot and then tell you what I thought of the movie. So as the movie begins, we find Aquaman married to Mera with a son named Arthur Jr., following his ascent to the throne of Atlantis, splitting his life between land, where he lives in the lighthouse belonging to his father Tom, and acting as a crime fighter, and the sea, where he rules as King of Atlantis. Meanwhile, former mercenary David King continues to seek revenge against Aquaman, and follows the research of marine scientist Stephen Shin, looking for Atlantean artifacts to make it possible for him to reconstitute his power suit. Once inside an Atlantean ruin that they find, underneath the Arctic ice, David finds a black trident that leads him to be possessed by its creator, who promises that if David helps him and his tribe escape their magic prison, David, aka Black Manta, will receive the power he desires to destroy Arthur, his family, and the kingdom. Within 5 months of this, global warming has worsened, with the surface climate experiencing extreme weather, and the ocean acidification causing disease in the sea population. Atlantis is then attacked by Manta, who takes the kingdom's, I'm going to say this badly, orichalcum reserves to power his ancient Atlantean machines, restored to a functioning status by Shin. In the process, he injures Mera and proves himself capable of fighting Arthur on equal terms without the power suit, which for some reason he never does actually reconstitute. He just now is possessed by this Black Trident spirit, and it's made him powerful. In talking after the attack with his mother Atlana and Mira's father Nereus, Arthur discovers that Manta is behind the rising temperatures, as he went after all the hidden reserves of orichalcum, which I can't say, which emits high quantities of greenhouse gases and which nearly caused a planetary extinction when used by an ancient Atlantean kingdom. And he's doing this to warm the Earth to the point where a whole bunch of ice melts so that he can get to this entity that wants to be freed, the entity that, I guess, inhabits the Trident and now Manta. Arthur decides the only way to find out where Manta is hiding is to go and rescue his brother, Orm, who had been an ally of Manta's in the past. And Orm, of course, is now in prison. Arthur breaks him out of prison, and after a meeting with the crime lord Kingfish, whom Orm knows as a contact, Aquaman discovers Manta is based on a South Pacific volcanic island. Before Atlantis attacks and destroys the island, Orm gets a hold of the Black Trident and has visions, revealing its creator was Kordax, the brother of Atlantis founder King Atlan, and ruler of the lost kingdom of Necrus, who wound up sealed in an ancient icy prison after losing a war with Atlantis. Given that the seal was created by Atlan with blood magic, the blood of any of his descendants could release Kordax, leading Manta to attack Tom's lighthouse and kidnapped Arthur Jr. before heading to Necrus's hiding place, which the Atlanteans discover with Shin's help to be underneath the ice of Antarctica. So Shin turns against Manta and helps Aquaman. In Necrus, Aquaman fights Manta to stop him from injuring Arthur Jr., but Manta almost defeats Aquaman before Orm arrives and disarms him of the Black Trident. As Orm gets a hold of the Trident, the spirit of Kordax leaves Manta for Orm, who proceeds to fight Arthur and use Arthur's blood to thaw the ice, imprisoning the body of Kordax. Aquaman gets the Black Trident from Orm and throws it at Kordax, who catches it midair, before Aquaman then throws his own trident to destroy the Black Trident and fatally impale Kordax. With Kordax's magic vanishing, Necrus starts to collapse, and as Manta hangs from a fissure, which he fell into, he refuses Aquaman's help and throws himself down the cliff to his death, apparently. The Atlanteans and Shin escape to safety, and Aquaman and Mera decide to let Orm go rather than bringing him back to prison, and tell him that they're going to tell the rest of Atlantis that he died in the conflict, on the condition that he remains hidden, at least for a time. Aquaman decides that uniting land and sea is necessary to combat the climate change that's destroying the planet. So he later reveals Atlantis to the human world through an announcement at the United Nations with the intent of making the underwater kingdom a member state. And that's where the movie ends. Of course, I left out a bunch of stuff and a lot of nuance that's in the plot, which gives the movie a good deal of heart and where a lot of its strength lies. So to get the full effect of the film, you really have to see it and see the parts that I didn't go into, because the synopsis would have taken a long time. I did like this movie. I didn't think it was anything special, but I did enjoy it. The action sequences are very good. The underwater stuff looked a lot better to me in this movie than they did in the first Aquaman. So I was happy about that. I liked the portrayal of Orm in this movie. I thought he was a very honorable character in this film, which of course is a departure from the character that he was in the original Aquaman. But I liked his character in this movie quite a bit. And I very much liked that in the end, he's sort of gets his honor back, you know, in the eyes of Arthur and Mira and his mother, and is welcomed back into the fold, at least in that small fold, that small circle. And that, you know, the rift between the brothers was healed. I really enjoyed that aspect of the film. And the actor that plays Orm and Jason Momoa have good chemistry in the movie, and you believe that they are, you know, sort of estranged brothers. And it was just very well done. Dolph Lundgren is okay in the movie as the other Atlantean king. Nicole Kidman does a very good job. I liked Amber Heard in this film. I know we're not supposed to say that because she's a toxic person, but I liked her in this movie, and she's not hard to look at, that's for sure. So, you know, those are the things about the movie I liked. What I didn't like so much was that the plot seemed kind of overwrought. Not to the point where you couldn't understand it, or to the point where it was nonsensical, because everything made sense, but it was just very multi-layered. In other words, and sometimes that can be good, but in this case, it was a little too, like I said, multi-layered. There was too much going on. Manta is heating up the Earth's temperature to melt the ice, and he's doing it by way of this Okalokalum or whatever it is, that at one point he has to steal a bunch of. So there's a whole sequence where he does a break-in to steal where the ancient Atlanteans stored it, because it couldn't be destroyed for whatever reason. And so there's this whole heist sequence where, you know, and it's an action sequence, of course, where he's stealing the stuff, and it's literally just a MacGuffin. It's just something he does because he's melting the ice so he can get to the Kordax guy and free him. And I thought that they didn't need to have that mechanism in the movie. Like, they could have just come up with something else that was more of a passive thing that he's doing in order to facilitate that, rather than make it a thing that he had to go and get so that they could make a sequence out of him going to get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't need to be in the movie. I thought you could take that whole sequence out, and it doesn't change the power of the story of the movie such as it is. It's sort of just filler in the movie. So I didn't really like that. I mean, as you're watching the sequence, you don't realize that. By the end, you realize that it was kind of just there to add an action sequence to the film. And it's like, really? You know, I didn't appreciate that. Manta in this movie is very one-dimensional and cartoonish. And I didn't really appreciate that. I think they could have made him more interesting if he were sort of like a Thanos versus this one-dimensional, you know, tunnel vision having bad guy. And, you know, that might not be the fairest critique, because at a certain point he gets taken over by the Kordax guy, and so his goal is to escape. And so I guess that's also kind of a tunnel vision situation. But there again, it's a cartoonish villain, and, you know, mustache twirling villain, and just comic booky, which is it's a comic book movie, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it becomes cartoonish, and I didn't think that was good. I thought, you know, that they could have done better with that if they had done something more along the lines of a Thanos type villain, or even Kang. What we've had of Kang so far in the MCU has been more compelling to me. So I thought they missed the boat there. You know, the Dr. Shin character in the movie serves a certain purpose, but there again, I thought the characterization was very thin. And I thought they could have done a better job with that. Getting back to, you know, sort of forced action sequences, I thought there were a couple of those in the movie where, you know, they set up these action sequences just for the purpose of having action sequences, which, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just, you know, what action movies are, but it's almost like they had this story of Aquaman. The story's really about Aquaman and his brother and his family and all that, and that's cool. And I think they nailed that part of it. But it's almost like they said, okay, let's tell this story about Aquaman, and he's struggling with being king, and he has to get his brother out of prison to help him, you know, end the threat of Manta. And, you know, let's have this story. But hey, we need another action sequence, so let's detour the plot in this direction and put this sequence in the middle of it. Just like I thought what they did with having Manta have to steal the Okorokoro girl. So there were a couple of sequences like that now that I think of it, and I wasn't in love with that. Not that the movie drags, and it's not that it's too long, but at the end when it's over, you go, they didn't really need that scene, and they really didn't really need that scene. And if it sticks out like that, then it's a flaw in the film. You know what I'm saying? And it definitely sticks out. But I still enjoyed the film. Like I said, the story at the heart of it is about Aquaman and his family, and you know, there's enough there to make the movie a solid 3 out of 5. And the things about it that detract from it being a 5 out of 5 are not such a detraction that it makes the movie not enjoyable. It's a very enjoyable movie. I think it could have been better. And I think ultimately it's not a significant entry in the DCU. But, you know, that's okay because there is no more DCU now. This was the final film in that universe. So there you have it. That's really all I have to say about the movie. So I'm going to get out of here. I will be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.